Welcome to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, the podcast where we dive deep into the journey from vision to reality. I'm Kelly Jackson, your guide on this path of self-discovery, transformation, and intentional living. Here, we explore everything from mindset shifts and personal growth to spiritual alignment and entrepreneurship, sharing insights, stories, and actionable wisdom to help you live a life in harmony with your dreams. Every episode will dig into what it means to not only dream big, but to actually consciously create the life you envision. Let's turn your dreams into real life. Before we begin, let's land for a moment. You showed up today because part of you is turning toward truth, expansion, and alignment. Sunday Spark is my weekly email created for the ones who are ready to live life in full ownership, to build in rhythm and grow from a place of ease. Each letter includes insights, activation prompts, and practical tools woven through my holistic trifecta, which is optimal health, positive relationships, and wealth building. And the best part? It's only 45 to 90 seconds to read. It's a quick spark, a gentle activation, something you can carry into your week. If you want that kind of moment in your inbox every Sunday, you're invited. Sunday Spark is there. It's ready when you are. The link to join is in the show notes. Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. And every year when this day comes around, I notice how quickly his words get flattened into quotes and essentially stripped of the context that made them necessary. Dr. King did not speak about love because it was comfortable. He spoke about love because it was the only force capable of sustaining change without destroying the people carrying it. Love, in his work, wasn't sentiment. It was discipline. It was regulation. It was the ability to remain present again and again in the face of fear and resistance and exhaustion. And that is what I want to talk about today. Not politics, not history, but the human capacity required to stay engaged with what matters without burning out and without disappearing. This is the difference between rest that restores and avoidance that delays. So let's get into it. Why does this matter right now? Well, so many people are right now exhausted. Not just tired, guys. I'm talking depleted in a way that even makes wanting feel heavy. Again, we're just coming out of the year of the snake and we're stepping into the year of the horse. And energetically and vibrationally and cosmically and collectively, there's a lot going on. Okay? And when exhaustion sets in, the instinct is often, I just need a break. Or I'll come back to this later. Or I cannot do anything else right now. Cannot. Okay? Sometimes that's true. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes what we are calling rest is actually the nervous system pulling away because it doesn't feel supported enough to stay. And that's not a personal flaw. That's physiology. But when we don't understand the difference, we can accidentally reinforce patterns that keep us stuck, even when we are telling ourselves that we're practicing self-care. So it can feel a little confusing. That's why we're going to talk about this, because I want to get rid of the confusion and I want to introduce clarity in a way maybe you haven't felt it before. Okay? So there is a difference between burnout culture versus disappearance culture. And we tend to talk about burnout as if it only comes from doing too much. But there is another side that doesn't get named as often. Okay, burnout culture is going to tell us push harder, override your limits, prove your worth through output typically. But when people finally collapse under that pressure, and they do, the pendulum often swings all the way to the other side. Disappearance culture. And this looks like checking out completely, abandoning structure, losing rhythm, disconnecting from responsibility in the name of rest. Been there, done that, all of it, okay? I'm speaking from experience and also witnessing it with clients and everything else. So when I say this, I want you to understand that while that can feel relieving in the short term, disappearing, checking out, all of those things I just listed, it often creates a new kind of stress. Because now there's no containment, there's no rhythm, there's no sense of being held. And the nervous system doesn't actually relax in chaos, even if the chaos is labeled as rest. All right, your nervous system ain't buying it. So that's why your quote unquote time off often doesn't restore your capacity. And here's something that may be hard to hear. Rest that only removes demand doesn't automatically restore capacity. I'm going to say that again. Rest that only removes demand doesn't automatically restore capacity. What does that mean? Well, it means you can take days off and still feel wired, and you can sleep more and still wake up tense. And you can pause a habit and feel more anxious, not less. Because what your system needed wasn't absence. What it really needed was regulation. And they're not the same thing. Okay? Regulation happens when effort is met with support. When presence is met with safety. And engagement does not feel like self-abandonment. Guys, without that, even rest becomes another thing that you are managing alone. You see what I'm saying? You see why even rest can feel exhausting if it's framed in this way, or if you are unaware? There is a moment from my own life that keeps coming back to me as I'm talking about this. So there was this season where I knew I was exhausted, not necessarily creatively blocked, and I wasn't uninspired. I was truly just depleted. And from the outside, it would have made perfect sense for me to say, I just need to step away. I'll come back when I have more energy. I cannot hold anything else right now. And you know what? Part of that was true. But here is what I noticed when I slowed down enough to be honest with myself. And that reminds me of that Banksy quote, when you're tired, learn to rest, not to quit. When I fully disappeared, I didn't actually feel better. I felt more disconnected. I felt more scattered. I felt less trusting of myself. What actually helped wasn't walking away from everything. It was staying but with support. It looked like releasing things that weren't aligned anymore, changing the way that I was holding responsibility, letting go of roles and structures and systems that were quietly draining me, and then allowing myself to be held by containers and rhythm and flow and relationship instead of carrying everything alone. That wasn't avoidance, that was regulation. And the difference in my body was immediate. Okay, I didn't feel energized in like a hype way. I felt settled. And that is how I learned this distinction, not as a concept, but as a lived experience. Rest that restores does not require you to abandon yourself. It requires you to stop doing it alone. I want to talk about something else. So this is interesting. It's how avoidance learns how to sound wise. And this is where things get subtle and tender. Okay, so avoidance doesn't usually say, I'm scared, I can't handle this, I don't feel supported. It says things that sound reasonable. I'm just honoring my capacity. I need more clarity before I move forward. Now is not the right time. I'll come back to this when I'm more regulated. Okay. And sometimes those statements are true, but sometimes they're protecting us from the discomfort of staying present with growth, especially when growth requires consistency instead of intensity. Avoidance isn't laziness, and it's not a lack of desire. It is essentially your nervous system that is saying, I don't feel safe enough to sit with this yet. I don't feel safe enough to stay with this yet. And guys, if we don't meet that honestly, then avoidance is going to slowly erode your self-trust. And not because you didn't try, but because you kept leaving yourself when it got hard, that self-abandonment. And I know you're ready to stop doing that. So then what does real rest look like? Real rest does not pull you away from your life. It brings you back into it gently. As soon as I said that, I had this John Lennon quote pop into my mind. Oh gosh, let me see what it says. It says, when you are afraid, you pull back from life. And when you are in love, wait, it's something about fear and love. Hold on, guys. I got to pause this and look it up. It's about fear and love. And when you are afraid, you pull away from life. And when you are in love, you run towards it. But I'm pausing this because I'm looking up the exact quote. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. I looked it up. This is what he said. There are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When we are afraid, we pull back from life. When we are in love, we open to all that life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance. I love that. And it popped into my mind when I was just saying that, so I wanted to share it with you. Now, and look, we're merging Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lennon on the same day. Bet you didn't know that was going to happen. Now, let's keep going. So I think what I was saying when that John Lennon quote popped into my mind was that real rest doesn't pull you away from your life. It brings you back into it gently. And restoration happens when your system learns I can move forward without force. I can slow down without disappearing. And I can be supported without giving up agency. This is why truly restorative rest often feels structured. And that's okay. It might include regular touch points, gentle accountability, being witnessed. I love to be witnessed. That's so important, guys. Practices that repeat, rhythms that you don't have to reinvent. Okay, that kind of rest doesn't just soothe, it builds capacity. And there is a whole episode on capacity I want you to check out. I'm looking in my calendar here to see when it was that we had that episode. I don't know when it was, but we had one on capacity, and it was really good. Now, I guess that's okay. You'll find it if you're meant to find it. You'll listen when you're meant to listen. Now, another thing I want to say on capacity is that capacity is what allows love and leadership and self-trust to last. We want it to last. Sustainability, okay? One of the most radical things about Dr. King's work is that it required sustained presence, not momentary passion, not performative righteousness, okay? Sustained courage, sustained love, sustained engagement. It lasts. And that kind of leadership is not possible without regulation. It's just not. And the same is true for our inner lives, okay? Self-love is not walking away every time something feels uncomfortable. It is learning how to stay without harm. Not pushing, not disappearing, staying. And you can do it. You can do it. As this episode airs, we are already inside Self-Love Uni group coaching. And what I am witnessing right now is this exact distinction unfolding in real time. People aren't being asked to do more. They are being supported to stay present with what they are already aware of. Okay? There is rhythm, there is structure, there is repetition, there is relationship. And that is what that creates is not pressure. What that creates is relief. Because rest does not mean being alone with everything. And growth doesn't mean forcing yourself forward. There's this beautiful place where it's just what I said. It's relationship, it's repetition, it's relief, okay? And you're resting and growing all in harmony. Whether you are inside this container with me right now or you are listening from your own life, I want to offer you a couple questions that you can ask yourself. You can journal on these. You can reflect on these. It's the perfect time to do this, guys. So one of them, where have I confused rest with retreat? And then where have I confused capacity with disappearance? And where might support allow me to stay instead of walking away? And friends, these are not questions to answer quickly. They are questions to sit with. So if you want to pause it, go back, rewind it, write them down in your journal, put them in your notes on your phone. And then at some point when you've got space in your day in your week or whatever, you sit down and you reflect on them, or you do it while you're driving or going on a walk or whatever it is you do. But it's important and it will help you. So I hope you do that. Let's go ahead and bring it on home. On this day, as we reflect on leadership that is rooted in love, it's important that we also remember this. The work that lasts in the world and within ourselves is not sustained by burnout or avoidance. It is sustained by regulated presence, by rhythm, by relationship, by support that allows us to stay human while we grow. And that too is a practice of love. So I wanted to also mention something. I call myself your self-love bestie. I'm all about love and self-love and all the things. And since this is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, I want to reference last year's episode that released for MLK Day, and it's called Reflections on Love and Light, inspired by MLK Jr. And much like this one, it's a brief episode. This is actually a little shorter. That one's maybe 30 minutes long, and it's one of the most downloaded episodes. It's really popular. It's a great episode. So if you're curious, or if you're feeling inspired, if you want to celebrate the day, if you want to celebrate history, whatever the case may be, I 10 recommend you tuning into that episode. So that would have been season 1. Obviously, this time of year on MLK Day, that's when it released. And on that note, as we move forward, we're going to return to our usual spacious conversations. Meaning, again, this is probably going to be in the 20-something minute mark. Y'all know, typically our conversations are average around 45 to 55 minutes, and we're going to return to that, but I wanted to honor this moment with presence instead of volume. It feels right. And thank you for being here, and thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I love having you here. I'm grateful for you, and I'm wishing you all the love, all the light, and hoping that this year is off to a fabulous start. I will see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It. I hope today's episode sparked something powerful within you. Remember, every step you take towards your vision counts, no matter how small. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please take a second to hit that subscribe button or leave a review. That would be amazing. Or share the podcast with someone who's ready to bring their dreams into reality too. And if you're looking to dive deeper, connect with me on social media at Dreamed It, Then Real Lifed It, or at BE_what you want. Or visit dreameditthenreallifedit.us for more resources on aligning your life, business, and dreams. Until next time, keep dreaming and keep manifesting your dreams into real life. Love you, friends.